Welcome to Big Little Stories. I'm Ivy Sharmetz. My guest today is someone whose resume is impressive, but it's her heart that tells the real story. Leah Papamarkou is Vice President and Community Relations Manager for Bank of America in the New Jersey market. And in her spare time, Leah travels the world building homes for families, volunteers everywhere she can, and lives her values in a way that inspires everyone who crosses her path. It is so great to have you here, Leah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ivy.
So you've literally volunteered all over the world, Asia, Africa, Europe, across the U.S. For someone who's never seen that work up close, what does that look like? How did you get involved in that?
So a lot of my story starts after Hurricane Sandy in 2012. So I was impacted by the storm, but I had neighbors who had lost everything right down the street in Union Beach. So after that, I really threw myself into volunteer work, working with Habitat for Humanity, really traveling, across our Monmouth County area, helping where I could, just trying to get people back on their feet. And after being on the board of Habitat and volunteering a long time, there came an opportunity to volunteer with Jimmy Carter in Nepal. And unfortunately, that trip didn't actually happen. But I was able to go on another trip to India, and that just kind of changed everything. I continued to volunteer in the States, but there was something about international travel and helping people, just where you were in wherever in the world, and it was just empowering. It changed my life. I can't even put it into words.
So I'm a fellow Monmouth County girl, and I remember after Superstorm Sandy, the way people in towns right next to where I was living, completely, the devastation and the loss was unimaginable, really. What was it about that made you think, instead of I'm going to work here, and then what inspired you then to take that all over the world, though?
So I think it was because it could really happen to anyone.
Yeah.
And then I started to see myself in other people and other places. Mm-hmm. So I kind of was like, what now, right? There was so much I could do, but once I started traveling internationally, you can make so much more impact in 5 days than you could really hear sometimes. So it became this opportunity to really touch someone along the way. But, maybe you just never know what their story looks like after. So, it was just an incredible opportunity to kind of explore, but also give back in a unique way.
So something I didn't mention when I introduced you is that you were named a Bank of America Global Volunteer Award winner in 2023. Was there, aside from the Superstorm Sandy, was there a moment that first really opened your heart to service? And I know, you grew up in a close family. Talk to me about that. And I know you love to talk about your family.
Yeah, so I grew up in a very, I would say, overprotective family. So, anything I did, it needed to be a school sanctioned event or, Girl Scouts. So, that's kind of where it started, but it was really where I went to high school. I went to Red Bank Catholic, and I kind of, had, service. It was before service was required in high school. And I kind of felt like I didn't fit in. So what do, right? And you kind of like put your head down and start working and start helping people because, maybe you couldn't help yourself, but you could help someone else. So it kind of started there, went to college, joined a service, freshman year, went early and actually volunteered for a week in Providence, Rhode Island. And that's kind of, so it's kind of always been this thread. My mom was a volunteer. My dad really never understood why I worked for free. But I think,
that's a very dad thing, right?
So he kind of was like, he understood how it impacted people, but he didn't understand necessarily the correlation between helping someone who didn't have much. So it was interesting to see how he reacted to some of the work. When I was named the volunteer award winner in 2023, I was excited, although I didn't expect it because I had applied so many times, and then all of a sudden you get it and you're like, oh, this is cool, right? And so I gave it to my dad, and he goes, what is this? What does this mean? Like, because he didn't understand. He goes, does that mean you get more money? I said, no, that means they're recognizing me for all the work I do for free. He goes, yeah.
But so now you talk about your dad, and I know you lost your dad not too long ago, and he was a chef.
He was a chef.
And I understand you have a story about a diner in Uganda that kind of touches back to your dad and what he did with his life.
Yeah, so my dad, left Greece when he was a teenager and traveled the world on a merchant marine ship and working in a kitchen. So he didn't have too much education. So when he came to the U.S., a lot of Greeks that were out of that diaspora actually owned diners, worked in diners. So that's kind of where he landed. That's how he raised his family, providing meals for people, in our community. But paid meals. So he, when he passed away, he had actually, it was kind of this love we had. I love to cook. And when he got older, and because he was so much, I'm so much younger than my sisters, and he was an older dad. So we had this time where we would cook together. And then, when I went to work, and so he would cook for me almost every night up until when he really got sick. So when I went to Uganda, which I actually, made the decision to go to Uganda, and he died the next day. And it was kind of one of those things, like, you don't know what to do. Like, he's not here anymore, but we talked about the trip, and I actually went through Egypt purposely, because he had been to Egypt and used to talk about how he sailed on the Nile River. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to Egypt, which I don't know that originally he was, I kind of knew he wasn't in his right mind. He was like, oh, I've been there. And like, he usually would like quiz me, like, why are you going there? Like, alone? Are you sure? So, I continued on that path to go to Uganda. And when I arrived, I did, go to Cairo, and I did sail on the Nile, which was, extremely emotional for me. And then when I got to Uganda, we were traveling from Kampala, which is the capital, out almost to the Kenyan border. And we stopped in this town kind of between the two. And the organization that I was working with was talking about all these businesses they had, because they had wanted to help their citizens kind of get housing, and that was more, stable and not like a thatched roof, or where they were really protected from the elements. So these social enterprises are like, regular businesses, but those proceeds are actually going to help them build houses. So, we were in this area that had a hardware store, a car wash, and then, the one of the program directors goes, and we have a diner. And I said, you have a diner? What do you mean you have a diner? Like, I'm in the middle of, you have a diner? This is very weird. Yeah. Like, very strange. And like, I literally think the world like shut in, and I said, oh my God, that I could actually, so I started asking questions about, what it would take for the diner to be there, and some of the things that they needed. So I said, okay. And, a couple days later we were building, and sitting at dinner, I talked to his name was Kevin, and I said, hey, Kevin, do you know how much it would cost to kind of outfit this diner? And he's like, well, I don't know. I said, can you get me those numbers? I'd really like to do something in honor of my dad. I mean, and I don't think he thought I was serious. And I was. And so I am working on getting the diner completed so that not only the community where it is can go and experience the diner, which will somehow, honor my dad. We don't know what it will look like. Right. But also teams that go and build in Uganda will also kind of stop there, and that will be a place for them to eat as a team. So I'm excited. I don't know when I'll actually get back to Uganda. I'm hoping that I'll be able to raise the money in the next couple of months, and then in 2027 go back over and kind of see what it looks like. So I'm really excited about kind of sprinkling a little love and my dad's legacy in Uganda.
Wow, there's something so poetic about that, right? That's what you're doing, and also, I think it goes without saying that if you want to learn how to fix a diner, you get someone from Jersey to help you do that. So they definitely have the right person. How do you decide what projects you take on and where you go? Is it just based on need? Are there other things that you're looking for when you're deciding that?
So I volunteer with a team usually. I have 2 team leaders that have been doing this for, 35, 40 years. And so they have partnered with 2 organizations, Habitat for Humanity and Fuller Center for Housing. So it really is where those 2 organizations are building the world. Mostly because they're doing the vetting of the organization and making sure that if a team is going in, that it's safe, that they have things that will provide a good experience. So Uganda is actually we were one of the first teams to go into Uganda. So it's not necessarily where I would like to go, although it has become that, I think, because I can make that decision. But I think it's where some of these organizations are building, where they have teams going. Years ago, I said, I want to go to Madagascar. Why I wanted to go to Madagascar, I do not know. But I went to Madagascar to build houses. Wow. And I got to hang out with the lemurs. It was amazing. Wow. It was a rough place to go. The roads at the time, and I'm not sure that it's gotten any better, but it took 6 hours to go like 40 miles just because of how bad the roads were. So it's one of those things where you think I stopped saying I can't do things, because there is so much you can do when you put them, like things I honestly think sometimes I say things that I can't do, and then all of a sudden I'm doing them.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, when you go on location to one of these places, you're on one of these trips, what is the day-to-day like? What are you doing every day? You're building houses, but what does that actually mean?
So I think this is where a lot of people get confused, right? Because we're going to build houses in another country, right? But they forget that what a house looks like in a developing country is not what a house looks like in the United States or even Europe or Canada. So, I'll never forget one of my first trips. It was in India, and it was brick building. So we were literally moving bricks from where the family had purchased the bricks, maybe a year or 2 before, and moving the bricks from one side of the village to the other side of the village where the house was being built. So yes, there was a component of laying the bricks eventually, right? But most of it is honestly moving manual labor from one half to the other half. And when you're working, some of these trips, I'm working with older people. So, you're talking about 15, 20, 25, even 30 years older than me that, they're moving 2 bricks at a time. And I'm like, okay, I can do this a little bit more, Right. Or they say, hey, you know what, I can't dig that ditch, but can you? And I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I think, you kind of give and take, and you kind of let go some of those things that you have, those expectations of what a house looks like. Yeah. Because you're not necessarily dealing with running water or electricity. Right. Plumbing isn't an issue. They have like a little outhouse. So you're digging that ditch so that everything kind of goes in it. I've learned a lot. I don't think, I mean, when I'm here, I don't like the porta potties, but, outside of the U.S., I can handle it. Just because I've built them.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, we're going to take a very short break. We're going to come back and we will talk more with Leah. We'll be right back. So So, Leah, in all of the amazing volunteer work you've done all around the world and around the country, what have you learned about people? What is it that people really need the most?
Oh, wow. Compassion. Um, I really think that the happiest people I've ever encountered in my travels are people who are happy. They sing a lot, really. But I also think they're honestly doing the best they can with what they have, which is often not much.
Yeah.
They're just looking for a better way to give their family what they want and what they need, which again is very little sometimes in these places. And a helping hand that can go in and a smile, lots of hugs, again, lots of singing. I was in Malawi, oh gosh, right before COVID, and I've they call it the heart of Africa, and I really felt it. Because they were just the happiest people I've ever encountered in my life. Singing, dancing.
Wow. So I can only imagine that your heart must be full of so many amazing moments and memories that you've collected after all these years. But is there one that stands out when you think of this work that just makes makes your heart smile a little more?
Yes. And sometimes I actually have to pinch myself that I've actually had these experiences. Um, I'll never forget, I was actually sitting at a table in Cambodia. And timing on my trip was maybe, about 8 years ago. And there was a family that was building a house. The mother had lost her husband, so we were working with a vulnerable population. But even more so, they were actually Khmer Rouge refugees. So they had lived through the horror of the Khmer Rouge and had, were from another place in Cambodia and actually had settled where I was, which is outside of Siem Reap. And we had the translator sit down with us and talk through, their story and what they went through. And to watch them get emotional, and just be grateful that they were there. I mean, they were older, and the mom, and they're so. I was talking to the parents of this woman we were building a house for, and they were all kind of together. So the houses were. I kind of felt like I'm like, oh, this is like my family, right? We're on top of each other. But they were supporting their daughter who had lost her husband, and the kids were, one was a little bit special needs, and it was just this beautiful moment with a family who had seen. I mean, I can't even imagine what it looked like back then when they were going through this. When they were probably my age, living through this, fighting, running, trying to stay alive. And you really sit back and say, wow, one, I'm sitting in Cambodia having this dialogue with a farmer, or I don't even know what they did for work, if it was just farming or whatever. But to have that moment and see the impact you had. I mean, it was a very simple house. First time working with bamboo, which was very interesting.
Wow.
And we had built the house up on stilts. And so we started on a Monday, and by Friday they were moving their mats in, and they were kind of setting everything up. And it really just changed their lives. And it was that moment, actually, that was the only time I went back to a country. So I did Cambodia twice in a row. And I was able actually to go back to see that family.
Wow.
And one of I think her dad had actually passed away within that time frame, and she had shaved her head. So she had this long, beautiful hair. And Cambodia is probably one of my favorite places. And she had shaved her head because in the Buddhist culture, when a family member dies, you shave your head.
Wow.
I'm glad that our tradition is we wear black, because I don't know that I would want to shave my head, but it was just, and I think looking back on it, she had lost her father, and this was, years before I lost my father, but I know how important her father was to her.
Yeah.
And now looking back on it, to see the dedication and the love that she had for her father, and then to put it in my own perspective, which is a little different, right? Great Cambodian, not the same, but it was a beautiful moment that I think I look back on a lot and say, wow, like I got to do that.
So, Leah, there are people who are going to watch this and listen to this and say, wow, I want to do some good in the world. I want to help people, but I can't travel the world. I don't, have the ability to, go somewhere else for a week. What do you say to those people? How do you encourage people to do good where they can? What should they do?
I think it's like, I often say, sit still and see what calls to you. Because I think sometimes you find the answers within yourself. For me, it was food, right? Yeah. So if I'm in the United States, I want to help people, feed people.
Yeah.
It was part of my life, and it was something that kind of motivated me. There might be people, maybe someone's family, built homes. It's just listen to your cues, your personal cues, and then do your research. Sometimes you have to kiss a lot of frogs to find the right fit for a volunteer organization. But don't give up, because I think everyone has a special gift. And when you can match your passion and what you're good at and what you get excited about, especially when you're working for free, because I wouldn't hear my dad if I didn't mention that.
Right.
It's going to be so rewarding. It's not going to feel like work. It's not going to feel like you're being made to do something. I think my international journey really was because my dad had the international journey.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times when I was traveling, we would have discussions like, oh, I went there, or, hey, I didn't go there, but I got stuck on the way there, right? So it was a way that I had common ground with my dad. So, look for things that kind of give you joy, because otherwise it's not really genuine. And I think there's ways that you can provide real genuine help that can benefit a lot of people.
That's so great. And I feel like I could talk to you for hours about this. And I just also want to mention that your employer, Bank of America, is very supportive of this work. That's how I found out about this work. And I imagine that helps to have these wonderful experiences and do all this good work when you know that you're working for a company that supports that. So that's really cool.
Absolutely.
We end every show with something we call 3 big little questions. We do them rapid fire. Are you ready, Leah?
I am.
All right. So the first question is, how do you get yourself out of a bad mood?
Sometimes I meditate, or I sit still and kind of just think, or stop or pause. The second one, depending on where I am, and if, I'm driving, sometimes, I'll stop by, in my Starbucks, I actually do this a lot more, is, just if I'm cranky, or if someone's really kind of ruffled my feathers, if cut me off, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to the Starbucks. And then I'll pay for the person behind me. Because sometimes that kind of breaks it out.
I love that. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Anything by Queen.
Oh, really? Okay. And what is your one of your favorite spots in New Jersey?
I love Sandy Hook.
Yes. Yeah.
I think Sandy Hook is a gem. I hate that people have actually also discovered it. But Sandy Hook is one of my favorite places.
Leah, I can't thank you enough for spending time here today, but also just all the work that you're doing and how you just inspire, I think, everyone that comes across your path. So thank you for giving us all a little hope and making us all feel like we should be doing more in the best way possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ivy.
Of course. And that will do it for this week's Big Little Stories. Be sure to check us out on Instagram at Big Little Stories Show. I'm Ivy Sharmetz. I'll see you next time.